it's like 4 ounces.
Yeah.
It's either
It's sampling.
Well, it's either with the Cuban coffee. It's either you get like they don't have this in Tampa. I don't know why, but down in like South Florida, they have the oil like viscous coladas.
Sounds like a flower.
Yeah, well, we're in the land of flowers.
Yeah.
But it's you either get like a thimble or you get like a thermos, and there's no in between.
So it's 0 to 60.
Yeah, at the Tropicana.
You get a sip or a bucket.
That's all you get, man. And now it made me mad because I used to give them shit. I hate places that don't take like debit cards or credit cards just because they don't want to. Like just because they don't want to take like an hour and figure it out.
You're trying to pay in doubloons, aren't you?
What's that?
You're trying to pay for your coffee in doubloons.
Yeah, I don't want to always have to get cash.
Yeah.
And then now they did it after, but not
Oh, they
not by
tricked you.
me. But not by me though. I want credit for it. Well, okay, so you gave me this book, 100 Tricks to Appear Smart in Meetings. This looks awesome. I feel like I say a lot of these things.
It's actually hilarious. So I got it as a gift, and the author is Sarah Cooper, who's also hilarious. But once you get into it, I started realizing that it was real life examples that I was pairing these. It's almost like a playbook for, how to address a meeting. But people were actually doing this at work. So
Like what?
So one of the things is like a parrot, somebody that comes in and doesn't really know a lot, and you have a meeting with them. And if I give a perspective or a strategy or a operating procedure, and I pause, you would think the person that's over that department would just step in and, yeah, you're right, we should also do this, basically connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Instead, they just literally are like a parrot, and they're like, yeah, this process, blah, sure, that. You're like, okay, are you even awake? Are you here?
Yeah.
Sir?
You're right. It's like, we got to get our supply chain management. We got to streamline that. And they'll be like, yeah, streamline that. Or something like that.
Yeah.
A little bit better than that. I'm going to record on the phone as well, just as a backup, because I've lost a podcast before.
Okay.
But what's it called? Yeah, I do. It's tough to be really self-aware because you're so worried about what you're doing, like the actual work. I can't remember if I talked to you about this, but like just a lot of meetings just are useless.
They don't go anywhere. So everybody shoots out all these ideas and problems, or two people are really passionate and everybody else could give a crap. And there's no action. So it's like, we just met for 3 hours and nothing's resolved.
Right.
Did we even just meet? No. Okay.
Yeah, my wife's in a corporate job, and it sounds like it sounds like all meetings and not letting them work.
Yeah.
Or like be directive quicker,
Yeah.
I've become a big nerd about meetings where if I'm on my game, hopefully eventually we'll have some kind of administrative help in here, but if I'm on my game, like you write a pre-meeting agenda,
Yeah.
and then once I'm done, at the end, I'm always like, all right, here are the next steps. So every meeting I put in my calendar, this is how nerdy it's gotten, is like I allot like 15, 30 minutes before to get prepped, which is something I never did. I was just like,
I mean, you have to. And
I have to now.
Yeah.
If I have an assistant, maybe that'll be done for me or kind of briefed to me. And then post-meeting, that'll never change because you're going to have to always have that. All right, so I have a meeting with someone, and then there's always a next step.
Yeah.
And that's where I used to be really lazy. And once I started really doing both of those things, it kind of was like, oh, you're really on top of all your stuff. And I'm like, I don't feel that way because that's how I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
But just making like follow-ups in my to-do app.
I think it's more ingrained in certain people that actually just, they don't want the monotony of like death by a meeting. Like, let's have 8 meetings. No, let's do one, identify a problem. Here's our recap email of what everybody's going to do. And next week, come prepared with everything. But there's so many people nowadays, or at work.
You're let's say corporate.
Yeah, corporate.
Let me get
America.
you closer to that mic. You got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I
there
feel
it is.
okay.
Now it's sultry.
Now I'm a different person.
Mm-hmm. You can move it around if you want to.
There's so many people now, though, let's say corporate America, that you go to a meeting and you have it, and it's more work now to actually go to that meeting than it is to just pull 2 people aside and say, let's knock this out or change direction.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to be in on that meeting. And some people almost look at it negatively if you go in there and you're authoritarian and say, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And these are our follow-up steps, like, go. Some people don't, like, I think it's an old school generational thing that they don't like that. But if you don't, nothing gets done.
Who doesn't like that? Our age group?
No, I think our age group is more adapt to that because they don't want to waste time. They have the sense of urgency.
Yeah, I hate all these millennial articles about, like, how all millennials are shitty. And by the way, we didn't name ourselves. I wouldn't have gone by millennial.
So let's talk about that because
right.
to me, 84, that's when I was born.
Same.
I'm putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
How?
You're brave. You're so brave.
I don't even care anymore. So if you know how old I am, that's great.
Vanity Fair should do a piece on you, how brave you are.
They would.
You just gave you gave your age
and
out.
then the backlash would be fierce.
Yeah.
So then people would hate me.
Right.
How are we millennials? I don't understand. We grew up with house phones.
Right. Well, plus defining generations is really tough. And I read something that every generation hates the generation after them. Even though the result of whatever shittiness millennials have is a result of baby boomers or Generation X.
Yeah.
So it's really their fault. It swims back up any shittiness. So, like, the coddling thing or the thing of, like, what's perceived to be, like, participation trophy generation or whatever, we didn't want those either. Like, I didn't like those. Like, getting a participation trophy, you still knew you're a fucking loser.
Your friends still know you lost.
Right.
Like, thanks, Mom, but everybody's still laughing.
Yeah. So it's like, I'd rather get nothing and have no attention shined on you.
Yeah, and just avoid it altogether. Did you even? I wasn't even in the race. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I wasn't there this morning.
Right. They used to give out eighth place for track, and it's like there's 8 people in the heat.
No, you're last.
What am I doing with this?
Congratulations.
You just wasted a bunch of nylon. So that's like, it's weird, but at the same time, we probably know. I think this is just an age thing too. That while you and I probably stress out about working all the time, we still know the lion's share of our let's say friends, acquaintances, whatever, that aren't doing anything. But
people.
I think the big thing is, if you have to do a sweeping generalization, is it's more about being flexible and going towards something you want, because we grew up in I call it like the modern internet era, because like technically the internet started in like the 60s, but like consumer level didn't go to the 90s, right? Yeah. AOL, all those discs, whatnot. So like I say, we grew up with the internet and this ability to have access to information, right? So I'm able to teach myself. I've taught myself like, I don't know, 4 dozen computer programs just by watching YouTube videos or following the instructions online or whatever. No one sat with me to do it.
You didn't have to get a degree to learn that kind of training. It's not like a certificate program or you had to pay for that. It's like you go online and just
figure it out too.
Self-motivation,
and not every asshole with a YouTube video is giving a good tutorial, but just like every teacher is not going to teach really well.
Right.
Or every book. Anyway, so I didn't know if you had more to lament about being called a millennial.
Oh my! I think it's like the generalization. It doesn't help when you go into work and someone sees you younger. I think you have to get past that and actually have a conversation with them. And within the first 5 minutes, you can easily determine whether they're one or the other, as far as if they're driven, what motivates them. I think I'm still a whole believer in it's your environment and how you grew up as opposed to when you were born.
Yeah. Oh, like I would 100%. Say so. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. If things came easy to you, the workforce is going to be really tough for you.
Right.
Well, all right. Let's go back. I want to go back to these dumb shit things people say in meetings. 100 tricks to appear smart in meetings. I feel like this is your book. I'm promoting.
God, I love it.
Did you earmark any of this or?
So one of the ones is it gives you a playbook on like a whiteboard meeting of, how to appear smart. You just walk into the meeting, and no matter what the conversation's about, go with the Venn diagram. Regardless. Maybe color in the middle. Just go up there.
I see it.
Have confidence.
Draw 10 key strategies for appearing smart. Draw a Venn diagram. Number 1.
Mm-hmm.
This is hilarious. I love this. All right. What do you see in real life besides the parrot, the Venn diagram?
A lot of times they'll sit next to the person that I guess appears to have the most competence on the subject, and they'll sit next to him so it looks like they're co-leading the meeting, and they have no idea why they're even in the room.
Do you think that's conscious or subconscious?
Oh, no, definitely conscious, because people are going to associate themselves with internal politics within a corporation anyway. So I think it's just an overlapping item that, like, if someone is on the C-suite level or a senior vice president and people are trying to get closer to those people, that it just naturally happens. But the best part is what I do is secretly I've already identified these people and pointed them out within the corporate environment. So I will literally make it my job during the meeting to be like, I cannot wait to ask that guy a question and him have no idea what he's talking about.
So do you go into a room like I can't help it in a lot of ways, and it's probably why I do stand up and do consulting is I think you probably have the same thing too, where it's like you go in and whether you're purposely trying to assess everything in the room or just subconsciously it just happens. You feel like a little Jason Bourne-ish, like a very keyboard soft Jason Bourne, but like you go in and you're like, okay, that guy's clearly hungover.
That guy's in an argument with his wife. He's all thumbs on the text messages.
Yeah, this girl looks like she's got her shit together. She's keeping everything. I bet she coordinates her schedule like crazy. Like, knows, like wakes up at 6 a.m. on the weekends.
Yeah, when her socks are ironed.
Yeah.
Those types.
Yeah, so I feel like you go in, and I do this with stand-up
sometimes
crowds.
To a fault, though. Sometimes I'm so concerned on that, I'll get pinpointed to ask a question, and I'll be like, yeah, her socks are from Nordstrom's. I saw them. Like, oh, we're talking about the Prophet. Okay, yeah, got it.
Yeah. Oh, well, Prophet liked socks
right
in Nordstrom's.
And
you guys seen Stance? Stance has got some cool socks,
guys, yeah. Bring it back.
Yeah. So what? Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of that. I feel like we're doing a very NPR kind of talk. Hey, but
yeah.
What else is going on? I want to talk strategy stuff. I don't know if you had any agenda to get up other than just to say hey.
So one of the
which I do like to hang out.
I mean, that's the only reason I'm here.
That's
I should have brought donuts just to come up and be like,
well, hey. Look, doing the podcast is like, it is a good reason to have a 45-minute conversation, and I'm not going to look at my phone. We're not going to be.
I won't assess your socks and how much you've ironed them.
They're Auburn socks, so you probably like them.
War Eagle,
yeah.
I do.
So got those on Stance for sure.
Nice.
Hey, why don't you be a sponsor, Stance? Fucking get with it. I'll get the Gucci Mane socks. That's what I really
want. If that's how that works, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But I know we were talking about millennials. One of the things I want to talk to you about was basically like ageism in the workforce.
Yeah.
So I had a team in the past where it was like outside business sales reps, all ages, everything. And it just seemed of no fault of their own, the people that we interviewed in different markets, the older generation was almost like banging down the door in their interview, if you know what I'm saying, like really just overshooting it, overselling themselves to a point where they were almost less confident in their skills. And then a lot of the people we got that were younger were almost underconfident and came off cocky. So I know it was almost like your coffee situation. It was 0 to 60. So I just wanted to see what you thought about, like, bringing it full circle, how you thought people, like, the best way to present yourself in the workplace, coming off confident but relatable. And I know a lot of people have problems with this looking in the job market anyway.
All right. So I thought about this a lot. I think, and also doing stand up, you're kind of always like thinking, you're narcissistic for sure, but you're constantly thinking about yourself and like who you are and how you project yourself. So I've had a little bit of a different angle, but I think because you're constantly doing that. You're constantly thinking of stories or things you observed, but how it's perceived by you in the scenario. And so I think like, plus you get instant feedback from a crowd.
Right, they're gonna yell at you.
Well, I don't get too many people yelling. If they heckle, I almost kind of like it. Not all the time, but I'm like, oh, you don't even know what you just walked into, because I can riff.
So it'll light a fire under you to make you almost do better, right?
Right.
Okay.
So I was bad at handling it. You know, I've been doing it 11 or 12 years or whatever, but like in the first half of those, I wasn't that great at it, and now I feel like, oh, I know how to play this game a little bit, and this will go into the job part of this, of answering your question, but it's like, I feel like a lot of people don't know thyself. Like,
self-awareness is one of the hardest things for anybody to learn, I think.
Let's just talk about spatial awareness.
Ooh.
You ever been on a flight and then like people don't know they have a backpack on?
Why are you breathing so hard?
Well, like,
why are you breathing?
Right. Why are you breathing? You know you snore.
No one told you to take off your shoes. This is not a ball pit.
Right. So just take the airplane as like the swaths of people that go on there.
Oh my God.
Majority don't have that spatial awareness. So there's that thing. Like I tried to do a bit about like Southwest attendance, because they just stopped doing standards of like what, because they get sued, I guess, of what their body type could be.
Oh,
but
God.
literally, no, look, this is going to sound like I'm a dick, but
No,
I'm saying
I
like,
actually agree with you.
if your ass touches both sides of the aisle, if it touches C and D in the aisle at the same time, that should be like, you shouldn't, I don't know, maybe you do it like Hooters and hire people as models.
It might be a good body image comparison. If you showed them, look, you didn't pay for this lazy boy, you're taking up a whole couch. You got to pay for a whole couch.
Yeah. I'm saying the attendance. I'm saying like, you're in this every day, walking up and down. You got to feel that brushing against you, or you just ignore it. And I get it. Like as I'm having, we have a 5-month-old now. You have how many kids? 1, right?
Yep.
Okay. 5?
2.
1. Okay. 2?
No, like 1 kid, she's 2.
Oh, 1 kid, she's 2. Okay. I couldn't remember. I was like, I know there's at least 1. But
you're right.
I've never met the kids, so I only see pictures online.
Soon.
So it's that thing of like, you can totally zone out your kid crying. I try not to in public. I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah.
But you can zone it out at home for sure.
Easily.
But so I'd say spatial awareness 1, self-awareness 2, because self is like, I think, a macro of that. I feel like a lot of people don't know what they don't know.
Which is true.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, I know I'm not a programmer, right? I know enough. I know enough to talk to programmers.
But if you're smart enough to ask just basic general questions and not be pompous to make assumptions, to actually learn the knowledge you need to learn.
Yeah.
That's what I hate. People that are not willing to just ask a question.
Right.
Hey, well, how do I get here? What do I do there? Because I'm sure being a comedian coming into, consulting, you have to fight preconceptions all the time. Like, I'm sorry, what?
So I figured out comedy.
It translates
a lot of
well,
stand-up. My stand-up comes from frustration, right? So it's the same thing in business. I get frustrated. Like, I guess I empathize with small businesses, and I get mad that like, you're doing this wrong, and I like it makes.
But they don't know.
Right.
They don't know.
And
what they don't know.
now I'm like getting aggressive, like John Taffer, going in there. Shut it down! Like going in and like, yeah, we're gonna do a stress test, okay? No, but I think that thing of like, okay, I know a lot about kind of basic psychology, and that's kind of a lot of business too. I feel like a lot of hiring is, can I hang out with this person at 2 a.m. if we have to cram on something?
Right.
Your ability to problem solve from the hiring side, I think is important. I think that lack of self-awareness is, I don't know, it's a mixture of people just let's try to figure out, like, reverse engineer why they don't have that. You think it's like people around them?
So I think one of the biggest things is a lot of people don't know their self-worth, and so they doubt themselves. So then they lack the confidence to basically have themselves and carry themselves a certain way. And then secondly, at work, other managers or leader positions are not, there are just some leaders that are not good at giving good feedback. Like, if I'm going to be honest with someone, I'm going to say, look, you do a great job, but you come off this way.
Mm-hmm.
You are way too loud in that meeting. Watch the tone of your voice and check your body language.
Yeah.
There are some people that can't do that because they just either don't have the experience or the way they give it comes off like the person giving the feedback is an asshole.
Right.
And you have to take the feeling completely out, or you are doing more damage to that person now.
Well, I used to think management courses were silly, and now I'm like, oh,
This is why.
people need. I think just the management courses provided generally are just really corny and not helpful.
They're very vague. They're extremely vague.
But because it'll be like, it'll almost be like a sexual discrimination kind of seminar. Like,
Yeah.
it'll be so vague and so bland that you're not really learning. That's why I tell everybody do improv. Do an improv class.
Mhm.
You're going to learn how to ping and pong off of. You're
Yeah.
going to learn how to yes and, but not sound like a parrot.
Right.
You're going to learn how to walk in the room and see everybody's kind of unique mannerisms and
Mhm.
what they're about. You kind of dress the way you want to dress to kind of, whether you know it or not, you're dressing in a way to say, this is kind of who I am. In the
Right.
corporate setting, it's a little tough because you got
You got to iron your socks.
to iron your
My hand's
socks.
hard.
And then like you're gonna be able to figure out the psychology of the people you're talking to, but you're also gonna be able to listen. That's the
Mhm.
other thing too. A lot of people get nervous in those interviews. They don't really listen to the question. They're like, I got to get to the point where I tell them about this part of my resume.
I've worked for the railroad, and then I went this, and I did logistics and metrics, and I did. But how old are you?
Right.
How old are you? Like, they just shoot it off because they think that they just want to hear numbers and words, and it's like, let's just have a conversation.
You're gonna have to do it. You got to weave it in at some point, but
Mhm.
it has to be more conversational. Yeah, it's tough. I can't tell you. I haven't had to do a lot of interviews, actually. Now I'm thinking about it. I haven't had to do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around a bunch. Just I guess I did a lot when I was really young, but like in the workforce. But I don't know how it is now. I don't think anything's much different in 10 years, right?
It's not much different. Like, everybody, you always want to perceive how you want to come off. So, like, your appearance is key, number one. Like, please make sure you showered. You don't need to be in a suit and iron your socks, but, like,
Yeah.
smell good,
gotta be
look
in a suit.
appropriate. No,
I
actually,
feel like you should.
depending on what you're going for.
I always say side. Yeah, well, look, if you're going to be a manager at Chili's, like, maybe you don't have to.
Straight to the top in a suit.
Well, you want to dress for the job you want, I
I'm
guess.
telling you, yeah. And that, that model still sticks with it. But I think a lot of people, when we flew around and went to all these different locations to hire a whole bunch of people. And one of the main things we did was, whether you brought your CV, your resume, whatever you brought, I would always turn it over and just ask the person and say, okay, well, start with telling me what you've done. And a lot of people just mess up the resume so bad that it almost will...
What?
It doesn't help them.
What do you mean?
If you come in for a job interview and you put every single job that you've had, bro, I do not want to know that you are a professional mail clerk for 4 months.
Hey, you worked your way up,
in
man.
between. Well, they add just so much. I'm like, stick to like the basics of what you're going for. They don't really tailor it. People think that you shouldn't have different types of resumes, so you really should. You should tailor it. If I'm going for a sales job, managerial skills.
I didn't think about that.
Just change your target words of what you've done.
Mm-hmm. Because a sales one is going to be more revenue generated by me.
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty.
What have you produced?
Right.
What is your production level?
Because that's all. Most sales is just straight to the point like that.
Yeah, and the same way you have like an SEO search online, you're going to want your resume to have those keywords pop out. So if you use the same one,
You just lost everybody.
SEO.
I literally, before we got here, I was like, I have to write something about SEO, and everybody thinks they know what it is, but they don't. really know what it is.
Well, that's the problem for small businesses and even large corporations. Now I'm getting angry.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
why they don't want to go online or utilize like marketing and sales online because they don't understand it. And if you have to use metaphors like, look,
That's what we're trying to do here.
Oof.
We use metaphors all day, man.
if you don't make it black and white for people, they are terrified and they won't put their money in it.
Right.
So that's why you should actually put your money in your resume, whether you use somebody to help you or just take the time to alter it and keep 3 sets of one resume, regardless of what you're ever going for. But turn it over and practice talking about instances of where you worked and why you were good. And
What about the infographic style of resume? Is that corny or is that
twofold. One,
if you're not a graphic designer? How about that?
okay, yeah. So I would stay away from
Or
it if
any
you're not
design.
in that field. You could still do it if you hired someone to do it for you that was a good graphic designer. If you can specifically talk to the points. If you don't know what's going on, don't even bring that. And 2, I think it's only applicable in marketing or online. I don't think a manager should come in and be like, here's my cool resume and it's got pictures on it and it's like, awesome, can you lead a team? What would you tell me in this scenario? I want to shoot out real life scenario questions and see how you would fix that. Whether you have the knowledge or not, like, what are your basic go-tos?
Yeah, and that's I think it's that thing of like the Google questions. I think they stopped doing a lot of them, but
oh my God, I hate them. Are you talking about the ones where it's like, if you were a cereal, what would you be and why?
oh no.
Okay,
I like those.
I'm
Well,
not
'cause
picking,
there's
I'm
no-
not gonna hire a Lucky Charms guy.
Well, yeah, clearly he
Magically delicious.
right. Clearly, I'd say no cereal. It's not healthy for you. And then boom.
Ooh, I'd be like, I eat kale,
Yeah,
so hire me.
boom.
I hate kale.
No one likes kale. But like, I'm trying to think like. Now I'm thinking about kale and cereal. What were we talking
The
about? before?
Google questions. I'm trying
Oh,
to.
yeah.
I don't think I've had those come up yet.
They just want to see you try to figure out the answer. That's all they want. They're
Okay.
elaborate. I don't know them off the top of my head. My wife showed me a bunch of them, and they're silly. And then I was like, I'd say the blatant answer, like, you just get on the train. She's like, no, this is what they want.
You just get
Like-
on the train.
Like it'd be like some scenario like that, and it'd be like, then she's like, no, you need to kind of almost not. You have to think about it out loud to them.
You'd look at all the routes of the day, see which one's coming at the appropriate time, and go ahead and call your employees to see if they can make that route so we can all get to the meeting.
Right. So
But no one's going to think like that.
yeah, people do. You're a strategist. I think a lot of people see that's the other thing too. I think a lot of people have more strategy in them.
Then they realize.
Right.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to articulate it a lot of
Mhm.
times. I feel like I can always default back to football kind of mentality.
Yeah.
If I have a question like that. All right, so how many people do we have in this scenario? And then it's just like, okay, execute the play. Okay, so how are we going to do this? By what time?
Mm-hmm.
All those things. And now I'm doing it every day, so it's not as hard. But I
And
do.
they use infographics in
I love
college
it.
football. They hold up
Fuck.
the play cards where it's like Gumby plus Cam Newton plus Kale.
Well, that's iconography to me. That's like,
That's one of my favorite parts of the entire game.
yeah, because
How they choose those
I
pictures.
know, I know.
want to be in on that.
I want to
meeting.
know. I do want to find that, like, 'cause
Like, oh, excuse me, can you add Nicki Minaj on the right corner? That's what I need to remind myself.
and you have to make them so different. You couldn't have like.
But the other team's like, they put up Nicki Minaj again. They're going wide.
Well, no, they change it up every week.
Okay, then
You
we've clearly got it. I'm
you
writing a
have
letter.
to.
I'm gonna call somebody, and I need to
Because
be
if
in
they
on that
figured
meeting.
out a pattern in 2 weeks,
Mhm.
right? If everything correlated automatically, then it'd be like, you don't even have to be like
I'll just be at
Alan
home and be like,
Turing to figure that out.
Yep, they're
you
throwing
know?
it. Gumby on the sideline. I got you.
So it's like they switch it up every week. That's what's the craziest is because they're teaching a new set of those icons.
Yeah. So I don't think they give them enough credit. You have to memorize the playbook, practice, train. Then they're gonna associate those plays with different pictures every
Right.
game.
Yeah. Well, it's drilled in your head.
I'd
I
be
think.
so confused.
Well, I think you learn how to forget after a week. You know, like after a game.
Like in college, prepping for biology, and you just memorize, and then I don't even know where the patella is.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like when I did stand up, how about that? I did stand up for the first couple of times. I dwell on that set, And then right now when I get off, I don't even think about, I barely remember what I talked about.
Really?
Yeah. So it's just that thing of like, you learn how to do that part more, and the more you do it, and the longer you've been doing it, it just gets drilled in your head. I'm only learning this for a couple of days.
And then just everything erased.
And then delete it. Yeah. You can train yourself to do that, I
I was
think.
going to say, that's an important skill to have.
Yeah, I think you need it for a lot of bullshit, like drama, people's drama. They're like, don't you remember that he, your friend was, flirting with that girl in front of her? I'm like, in front of his wife. I'm like, no.
Yeah, well, you also...
I deleted that from my head,
I think that's a...
dude thing.
Yeah, because I'm going back to 5th grade when you stole my boyfriend, and I remember your name. Specifically,
I stole
and
your
the date, no, and the date and time. Like, chicks put that
I
stuff
didn't know
in
myself, I guess, in 5th grade.
We've got a vault, and all that stuff stays in there. But I agree, you can dwell on it.
That does make sense why I went to a Jesuit high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, how about this? I want to talk about this, hiring in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like it is, how do you get in? I've been obsessing about this for the last like 6 to 8 months probably, because we want to scale at some point.
Right.
And I come up with thresholds. For a small business, I feel like you got to go, we have to get to this amount of revenue, and I have to get to this amount of time per week to be able to kind of allow time to manage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working on that. So once we get to these thresholds, then we do it. But I have people I've been talking to along the way. Like if we were doing $1 million a year, I'd be like, "What's up? Why don't you?
Right.
What are you doing?"
But that's always good. So I still have my list right now of like the people that you value and know that autonomously they could just get it done. You'd be like, "Hey, I need you to Monday through Friday. This is your job. Manage this. Make sure this shit gets done." Boom, and they could just kill it. So you always keep those people in your back pocket. But there's a lot of businesses that, because they grow so fast when they're small, then I'm glad you said that you've already mapped out like the threshold, because you have to have that one point where we cannot add headcount until we get to this number or this thing, let's say. Unless, you can have floaters and then, contracted employees or whatever.
Well, right now our whole model is because I have to vet, I've probably vetted 150 freelancers, so we have that many people in our Rolodex. Some people, about 90% of them are local, because I like having that face-to-face, even though I may not meet them face-to-face. But if we have to, we can get together in a conference room and
just
hammer
to
out.
make it a possibility, yeah.
There's something to be said about it. Plus, if you have a local client, it's better to have a local freelancer subbed, just because it may have a feel. Now, sometimes you go against that if you're trying to be like, hey, we need design that looks New York and LA, and a lot of the designers don't have that here. I have people like that. But anyway, so we have that's been like the game within the game for us the last almost 2 years of doing this place.
Right.
So I'm like kind of trying to procure talent as like, it almost becomes a fun game. But what I tell people about hiring people, like when we're doing consulting, I go, here's what you don't want. And this is a long-term play. So you have to think of project management. You got your long-term goals, short-term goals, right? How do you have an office? So I use our scenario for them, and I go, what are your thresholds to hire that third attorney at your law firm, or a paralegal, to be support, and what would that look like? What would that job look like, and all that stuff. Start thinking about that now, even though we're 6 months to a year away,
right?
Because you're gonna gravitate towards more people that might fill that position, just because you started thinking about it way earlier.
Yeah, that, and then just keeping the people close that are like-minded with yourself in business, and even in their, even outside of work, like what they do, if they're family-oriented, if they have certain characteristics that like you share together, those are the type of people that you want to start talking to now, because if you don't, with the speed and growth of a company, you don't want to be in the situation where like you just have to hire because you have to hire. That's the worst mistake ever.
Well, and everybody in business, I'm finding out, is really bad at planning. Hey, I'm not great at it either.
You're horrible.
Well,
but it's
I bet you're not.
They look at the now.
Right.
They don't forecast, and forecast is the biggest thing that will make or break whether you're going to make $1 million, billion-dollar company or you guys did great and then you just dropped the ball, so you're done.
Right. And so it's that thing of like, I had to train myself to get better at planning because I was fucking horrible at it.
Right.
But the other thing, like you're saying, I tell clients, I go, how do you not have an office space scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
I go, you know why big corporate places kind of suck? It's because they don't put a lot of effort into thinking about this way ahead of time about their corporate culture.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because you're a small business doesn't mean you can't think about what's the culture you want to have in here. What do you want to cultivate?
Mm-hmm.
Like I want this office to be like an entrepreneurial kind of, not like a WeWork, but like
we're not talking nap pods, but we're talking about like culture within your environment, and you got to carry that all the way through.
Nap pods would be great, fine, whatever. But that's not. I don't want the features of the office to be the office. I want it to be, you want to go in, right? So we just had lovely Samantha come in. She didn't work for us, but I like the people we're working with a lot. Hey, come use the office. We've got enough room.
Yeah.
I like sharing ideas between a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so you want ideas to be able to flourish. Like I want to get a digital dry board, and here's one of the next moves. So if you do have a good idea and we are writing it up, that I'm not having to take a picture of it, then get it over to like, then actually map it out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to need an Excel workbook on that.
What? On
tracking of your project, of your
Is that how you roll?
No, there's just some people that I know, they just put so much into it, and it's like, no, forget it. Let's just collaborate. It's a great idea or it's not, and then move it on.
Right. I always say that with like design and branding stuff. It's like, does it make sense in the blink test, And if it doesn't, if you're not immediately like that works, or it doesn't, so when I give people logos, I give them the concepts, and I do it. I stole this from Adam Carolla's podcast. He said like the best way to do paint swatches, right? Pick paint color for your wall is you put 3 swatches on the wall. You bring a friend in, and I'd bring you in, turned around, and then I quickly turned it around and go pick the one you like out of the 3 as fast as you can, because that's going to be the one, right? So your first instinct's usually better.
Right.
So that's how I do it with logos too, because that's how other people perceive it too.
Yeah, it's
they're going to see it for a second, right? But
I think that I think visually that's easier for a lot of people to do, whereas I think one of my skills that I'm really good at is like reading people. So rather than just people choosing something based on a visual image, being able to have a conversation with someone and be able to say whether they're going to last, not last, I can train them, or they're gone. Usually within 30 minutes, I'm able to identify people that either you can mentor, train, have a worth, have no stake in whatever you're talking about, or may or may not even work here.
So throw some of those negatives out there. Like what about if they like fiddle with a cigarette or have that like, I gotta fidget with something.
So you can still have nerves, or they have the little like fidget tools now, which I think are awesome. That little like click, twist, whatever.
I've debated buying that. Yeah.
I don't need it. I usually will just ramble instead of like fidget with something, but I think it's a good tool for people to have. It's more about you can tell by someone's conversation.
Husband's like, well, why don't we get that fidget tool?
Yeah, he's got 4. That's a whole nother podcast. But
when are you going to start a podcast in here? What's going on? All right.
That's also another podcast because we're working on that.
All right.
So just from talking to someone, you can actually tell whether they're like passionate, have even thought about the conversation that you're about to have with them, or they just want to shoot the shit, or they're not even really sure why they agreed to come talk to you or reached out to ask you questions.
Yeah.
So at work, you can identify those people, and then you can say, well, what, if anything, have you done to better yourself? Like if you want to go more in business, have you sought out other people that do what you like? Have you taken any certificate courses or anything? Because now we're at an age where like, I don't care if you have a PhD or an AA or vocational trading. If you can implement
Anonymous?
that too. Both.
You can't put that on your resume.
I mean, you might be. I would,
Defeats the purpose of it.
but if you can talk about it intelligently, that shows me you can carry a good conversation and you have knowledge behind something.
You're not. I don't think you're supposed to though.
Oh, I think you are.
Are you?
Oh, you're right. Maybe it's like a secret. I would think like from an instance of I got through it and I overcame it, but maybe it's like a secret society and you're not supposed to.
It's like Fight Club-ish.
Like we don't talk about it.
Which is why they're in anonymous meetings in the beginning.
Anonymous. I think that's the whole word behind it. There we go.
That was our pilot for something we shot called
Really?
Anonymous. I never showed that to you?
No.
We shot it like 3-4
wait, are
years
you
ago.
even allowed to tell me about this? Because it's
Yeah.
anonymous?
Well, that was the joke.
Okay.
That was the joke in the pitch.
Okay, perfect.
So you're right on point.
Okay.
No, we didn't mean for it to be kind of the beginning of Fight Club style, but it was 4 dudes that go to anonymous meetings.
4 dudes.
4 friends that go to anonymous meetings trying to be the best at the meeting, but each of them had their own addiction. So mine was a sex addict.
Of course it was.
My buddy Matt was he was a drug addict. My buddy Matt Fernandez, really funny. Follow him on Twitter, Fat Hernandez.
Nice.
John Jacobs,
Yes.
Maybach Diamonds on Twitter. He was a gambling addict. And then we did one really atypical, which we thought was the funniest, was JB Ball, who was on Kevin Hart's Heart of the City on Comedy Central recently. He had body dysmorphia issues.
Oh, yes.
Because he's a tall, skinny black guy.
Perfect.
And we're like, and he's straight too. I feel like I never heard of any like straight black dudes, tall, skinny, that would be like, yeah, I'm bulimic. So we were just like, we wanted to play against that. Some people probably hate this if they're hearing it.
But you've
I promise you,
some people.
I promise you, we spun it into a way that it made it.
It's
actually
a really
conversation.
positive piece, guys.
It
helped a lot of people.
It ended up. The character was supposed to be that. Like it would actually help, and it would be the insensitiveness of the other 3 around them about what's going on.
So
to
there,
play
see?
on. Comedy's about contrast. I'll break it all down.
You know who I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm glad you brought that up, is you had a friend that recently had a Showtime special.
Which one? Mr. Kreischer? Bert Kreischer?
Yes.
The Machine?
Oh my Mugatu.
Yeah.
I was dying laughing
Have
the entire time. I've never met him. I know of him. I followed his work. It had me literally dying, and I mean that's the entire time too. There wasn't even like a down pause. There weren't any jokes that like he lost me on. So I was just
That's awesome.
Oh my God. And he's from Tampa.
Yep. Went to Jesuit High School in Tampa.
First we had Rufio. Now we have
Rufio.
Rufio graduated from not Jefferson, but
Gaither?
Yeah.
Who's Rufio again?
I'm sorry.
I think
from Hook, Rufio. Oh.
I never saw Hook.
Okay, everybody can go ahead and turn this off right now.
I watched it with my cousin. I was like, I don't know.
Okay, so for real,
when I was like
real
10.
people, he's like the best Peter Pan movie ever for kids. But the bad guy, well, he wasn't. I guess he was the good guy, but whatever. He was like completely most outrageous, retarded character. And then my brother did some research and was like, he is our claim to fame, which was really sad.
I'll take John Matuzak, who is Sloth from the Goonies, for 1,000.
He played football.
Played football at University of Tampa. Now does not have a football program because of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
We
they made
showed
a deal.
them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, for people outside of the area, I think they're bored with the Tampa stuff. But Bert he's a great dude. I think I've opened for him like 40 times or something silly. Because I won't host anymore at the club here, but if he's in town, I'll ask to host. Just because he. When I first started doing stand-up, he was nice enough to meet me up and kind of give me some advice. And I was real green and 21 years old, and met him at the Hollywood Improv. And then he probably thinks I'm a fanboy to him. I hope I don't have that because I'll every now and again.
Probably it's just
I don't know. Well, it's weird. Comics are weird. You never know what's going on. it's that mental game in the hiring process.
Yeah.
Like, are
Is
they
your
thinking about what I'm thinking about? Is
Oh,
you're
okay.
doing that back and forth.
But is your industry open like that, where you have mentorships? Like in the corporate world, people will seek out other like-minded and will mentor them and everything, or is
So
it more?
a little bit. You just kind of you learn by watching and observing, kind of like you would your act. There's like kind of class groups.
But that's hard because then you don't want to take on their mannerisms or jokes or the way they do it. You
Right.
have to interpret it into your own style, and I think that's
Yeah, it's hard to find your
yeah.
your own voice, which goes back to what we talked about
Like
in the beginning,
self-awareness,
finding
yeah.
who you are. So that's why it's like it did take me a while to figure out, oh, my frustration is kind of that's the point, that's the wick, or the flint or whatever you want to call it, the spark to get a joke going for me. So if I'm talking about how I have to see someone driving in the slow lane and I have to see their fucking face,
Hurts.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like once I
Don't
get
look
around
at
them, I'm
me.
like, I have to see their face. I
Yeah.
don't get angry at all, except when I'm driving and someone slows shit and they have
Just
stuffed
like-
animals in the back, windshield.
Sir, you knew what you did.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so but whoever it is,
Yeah.
I'm gonna like have a million hates on that person. One time I saw a dude, a CrossFit guy probably.
Mm-hmm. Most likely.
I'm stereotyping,
It's okay.
but he was taking a selfie as he was driving, and I was like,
I'm about-
oh, that was satisfying. I'm glad I almost got in a wreck to see his face to go around him. Anyway, I feel like that corporate culture thing is a big deal, and I try to tell people, like, you know, as we help you grow, because our whole philosophy here is like we want to grow with you. The better you do, the better we look.
Yeah.
And that's
They have to be willing to grow individually, though, too, not just as a corporation.
I tell them that too.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I go, look, you gotta come. You're gonna have to come my way a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'll teach you all my side of it, all the digital side, general business kind of
Yeah.
study. I'll send you case studies. I'll send you things that are gonna help you. You gotta continue to educate. Like I'll talk to a dentist or a lawyer or whatever, and I'll go, look, you're a lawyer second, you're a businessman first now.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how you have to think about it. You have to do both really well, but you need to compartmentalize those.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to be the lawyer. That's the actual work. The actual work part is like 20%.
Right.
It's really weird. I didn't think about it this way. It's 20-30% maybe when you're a small business.
Well, think about it, just like being a comedian, your skill is your talent, and that's the actual work part of it. But the way that you make money is scheduling gigs, getting in clients, like bringing in the
Business
actual
development.
business. Yeah.
So your business, if you compartmentalize it, this is a consulting. The consulting and lawyer thing is like you have the finder, minder, grinder theory.
Yeah.
So you like a Neapolitan ice cream. So
Mhm.
you
Nice little parfait for you.
so you're going to transition into that. So the finder is the business development, the minder is the person in the office doing like a lot of the paperwork. In a law firm, it's a way, it's kind of fucked up, but the way they keep you in those lanes forever if they can.
Yeah.
My thing is I want you to be skilled at all three eventually, but basically finder, business development, minder, you're the guy in the office or gal in the office, doing a lot of the grunt work, a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the contracts or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the grinders are the guys in the courtroom laying it down.
Mhm.
And that's, to me, that's more of the strategy. For here, that's more of the strategy stuff.
Yeah.
That's the more of the, I'm going to go speak at this college class
Yeah.
on behalf of everything, even though that's technically probably business development, but not really. It's more about getting the voice out there and being that person. So as that I transition more to that grinder part,
Mm-hmm.
I'll have someone taking care of the business development a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a scary jump to take, though, for someone in a small business to let go, like to let go of the reins, to know you have somebody that's gonna.
And that's part of it. You just have to call them out eventually, a tough love style, and go, you don't know how to delegate.
Yeah.
And some people are they go, I'm type A. And I go, what do you think that means? Just like I ask people, what do you think SEO means? You know,
Yeah.
like, and they go, I just got to have my hands on everything. And I'm like, How well is that working out for you?
Like, you're losing money right now.
So a lot of my job is really occupational therapist, because we do weekly meetings in the beginning with every client,
Yeah.
and they have to do them, because
You mean
of this.
vocational therapist. Occupational
Oh,
therapy
yeah.
is like physical therapy
Is it?
with your hands.
That's what I meant. Vocational. Yeah. Anyway, because when you own your own business, you have no one to talk to.
It's true. That's
You
why
are-
a lot of them have therapists,
right.
like professional therapists.
So that's why we started it really going like, all right, we have to do a weekly meeting. I'm going to give you updates, but I also want to, if you need someone to go, hey, is this crazy? You can ask me crazy shit.
You keep that line open. What's your cutoff? Like, I don't want people calling you at midnight.
It hasn't gotten bad.
Okay,
No. I know I'm pretty strict on that part.
good.
I don't promise anything after like 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Actually 5. Now that we have the kid.
Yeah.
So I don't promise anything, any call, unless there's no emergency stuff we're really doing.
No one's dying.
Unless it's like an online advertising campaign that's gone awry or something like that.
It went rogue.
And if that happens, that's something where I can pop in and fix it.
Yeah.
But I can do it from my phone now, which is awesome.
Hmm.
This guy hijacked this podcast. All right,
No.
so back to the hiring part is, I go, everybody knows that line of like, it costs 9 times more to hire someone
Mm-hmm.
than bring someone up. So a lot of people don't think about, like, I think about it like a baseball team. Like, I want this person to come up. I want to teach them things along the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great book, The Extra 2%.
I have not read it.
It's about the Tampa Bay Rays,
Mm-hmm.
and their ability to use Moneyball for that side.
Mm-hmm.
They go, don't ignore that, but it's not everything. Managerial experience matters too. I give it to all my clients because I think it's a really good book about how to manage at a big scale. So they talk about, like, you get a pitcher, Scott Kazmir, you put him in single A ball. What the old school practice is, every manager along the way up to the big leagues will teach them their way of coaching,
Mm-hmm.
which is not good. So the Rays had a plan for each person that was coming up, and it never wavered. So they go, at single A, you're going to teach him, you're going to hone down his fastball. At double A, you're going to work on the curve. At triple A, he's going to work on his knuckleball or whatever.
So just like an increase in skill set based on the level.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
But he's a fireballer, so they start with what he's really good at and
Okay.
really hone that. So then he always has that core to go back to
Mm-hmm.
of his skills, which gives you more real confidence.
That should carry over, but it doesn't right now
What?
in the corporate world. Just like that kind of way, because so many people are just, well, now you're promoted to manager, and they've never managed,
Right.
and they have no idea what they're doing.
Right. So that's that thing of, like, if I had my druthers, in doing it that way, I go, you have to take an improv course. You got to take an 8-week one,
Mm-hmm.
and
You're
gonna
either going to sink or swim.
you're gonna hate it, but this is gonna be part of you being a manager and
Yeah.
leading a team. Is you're gonna do that. You're gonna do a bunch of weird stuff. I think's valuable. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to read that book.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Madden's a baller. You'll read it and you'll be like, "Fuck, that guy's awesome." What other things in hiring and kind of the ageism stuff?
So one thing, it's kind of like a sidebar conversation, though, is
This has all been sidebars.
I know we're overlapping. We're still under the same umbrella, but one of the topics I actually really hate, and it's to a fault sometimes of my own, is corporate politics. I like to keep business completely separate. So, like, and I know some people don't like to do that, but if I'm going to hang out with my husband or my kid, you're not coming to my living room. Like, you're not coming to my house. I have my own set of friends. I keep things completely in different buckets, and that's hard when you get to a certain level where you have to network and everything else. But I don't like how sometimes it's perceived in the office of, well, I'm just going to go. It's very selective at the top of who I'm going to go to and why,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to based off skill set. So because I don't partake in the after hour drinking of wine, you're going to choose somebody that has a lesser skill set than realizing that person's better for the job. I
Right.
don't like the look, I can schmooze all day when I'm being paid for it, and it has to do with networking.
Mm-hmm.
And I can also give really good criticism constructively to help somebody grow within a company. But if I don't always agree with you, I think a lot of people like the people that agree with them. And that's the part that I don't like, because if, I'm going to take this person under my wing, or I'm going to make sure they get the promotion because they always agree with me and they're very likable. I could care less if I'm likable. I want to make sure that we're doing what's best for everybody to grow. And it's tough because it's literally either you're on this side of the fence or you're on this side.
Yeah, that's tough. I haven't been in a corporate environment since I was at a Dimensional Fund Advisors, a mutual fund company, index fund company. So I do remember a lot of that. Like, you got to buddy up to someone. You got to do the happy hours, even the like going to work out with the boss.
Yeah.
And doing all this but at the same time, it's tough. The corporate, I feel like it's a little bit more, the lines are very...
Mm-hmm. They're very cut and dry. I almost had to use improv as a way to fake it or make it in this one area of my life, because I don't have a poker face. Like, if I don't like something, you can immediately tell that, like, look, that's
like
a horrible
my tiny
idea.
cup of coffee.
Basically, I was like, what are we doing here? Like, you can just tell because I'm very
You look
blunt.
like you saw a dead baby deer. You're like, oh my God.
This is what's going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make you feel like a giant, though.
I know.
Yeah.
I got small kicker hands, so this feels great.
Oh, it's your size.
Good visuals for a podcast.
Perfect. I like it. So it's harder, but that's the only thing that I don't like. I wish more people would take the time to find those people that actually have the education and experience behind their knowledge to really better their company, as opposed to not taking the time and not really caring.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
but it's all politics.
That's not... I don't know if that ever goes away, really.
I don't think it does. I just hate it.
We are humans at the end of all of that.
But you know what? Even if I don't like you, let's say you and I weren't even friends, that I hated you, I would still recognize your skill and talent enough.
I'm sorry about 5th grade. Yeah.
We're going to go back to that. I would still recognize your skill and basically your value to say, you know, he's got to be the point guy on that. Like, you have to use him. If you don't, we're going to fail.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that can't take emotion out of decision making, whether you're on a community board, if you're in an association, or at work, and they make it based off of, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. And as a female, it comes off as,
you're a bitch.
I'm a cold-hearted bitch.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that.
I know. I do, as much as, like, I don't like I like the lean in idea.
No.
The idea.
Okay.
The idea.
Thank you.
Not the marketing of it.
No.
Because they went to celebrities immediately to push the message, which almost negated the point.
They should have gone to companies that were owned by women, or CEOs, or leadership positions of women, but they're idiots. So
and they went to the ones they did. They went to, like, Marissa Mayer at Yahoo or something like that, or whatever her name is. But I do think there is something to that psychology, that if you are, let's say, more on the Asperger's spectrum about decisions, as a woman, you still get that a lot. And I know from a lot of people that have, like, I mean, I don't have to be PC about it, I guess. I don't know why I'm thinking in PC. I think you got me in corporate world talk. But, like, if you have, like, a Latin American, Latino boss, those guys are still very much dicks to women in the corporate setting. Old school mentality. That's gonna take a while to kind of wash out some of that.
Yeah.
Not saying all, by the way.
Yeah,
our video partner across the hall is great. He's a great manager. He's from Dominican Republic. I talk to him every day. Blah, blah, blah. All that. I have one black friend. That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah?
No. I've got a lot because of comedy. I hung out with all whiteys growing up, and then got into stand-up, and we look like a game of Guess Who.
Perfect.
All my friends in the comedy
Glasses
world.
and a beard.
Yeah. But it's like, I looked at all the Cigar City comedy comedians in our group, and it was like, oh, we look like casting out of a sitcom. Like it's
The most
one person from
random- yeah.
every kind of ethnic group. All right. I mean, anything else before we? This went by too fast.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot. I hope everybody
Wage
learned.
gap? Any of that?
I don't. God,
Thigh
we
gap?
can't even. Oh, thigh gap. That's a hard topic.
What about wage thigh gap?
That could be a thing for sure.
Wage gap.
So wage gap, I have my own theory on, and people are gonna hate me for this.
It's 97 cents to the dollar. Is really the closer one.
So here's my argument, and
Okay.
people are gonna hate me.
Why?
I don't think women are paid less.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that based on your experience, and there are women out there in the corporate world that actually have this same mentality, it's based off of your experience and how long you've been with that organization.
Yeah.
Like if there's a guy that does the same thing I do, and I say, well, he gets paid more. Yeah, no shit. He's been at the company for 5 years, and he's had an annual review that's bumped him up. You just started. You may have experience, but they're not going to assess you on that, you idiot.
You know what? That's never brought up. I didn't think about that until right now. When is the scenario ever exactly the same? The same job,
If
the
my
same tenure.
best friend who's a guy and I graduated from Auburn with the exact same degree, no experience, and got an entry-level position in our industry, the starting wage should be the exact same for both of us. Bazinga, that's it.
And y'all had no extracurriculars in college. You had the same GPA.
And no internships, no experience, no nothing.
But so they say, and the White House promotes it as 78 cents on the dollar still. And I think that's fucked up because it doesn't empower women. It makes you bummed out. If anything, it's not.
Right.
It makes more of a sad sack kind of scenario where you go, well, fuck it. Why should I even try anyway? Kind of thing.
I'm just gonna lose.
There's more that attitude's gonna happen a lot more than being like, well, I'm gonna go against the grain because that's harder.
Mm-hmm.
But they say like it's voluntary. So women are more educated now than men. Higher education too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking grad school and beyond.
Yeah, post-secondary.
And so they say it's voluntary stuff. Like I'm experiencing this with my wife, who's
right. If you take
she
leave of
just had a
absence for
kid.
having a baby, or
Yeah.
if you take a job where you want to have more flexibility with your children, like there's teachers. Yeah, you know what's awesome about being a teacher? And I have teacher friends, so don't kill me.
you work 90 days a year.
Basically, you work all the time, and the
no.
perception is you get off when school is out. But you also have to make up because you make less. So usually they have second jobs as summer. But people going into teaching, the perception is that they will have more time to spend at home, and it's not.
That's the other that pay.
But you really don't. But the whole reason they're paid that much is because of what you do.
3/4 of the year.
Well,
I don't understand the teacher's wage thing when you get
well, I don't understand
literally
why
like a third of the year off.
People at McDonald's, when they want a higher minimum wage, there's robots now that are taking those jobs. I'm like, what?
Oh, you helped them do that. Like
yeah.
in a way, like they've had that. It's not like they made those machines within a week. Right in Seattle when that happened about the wage stuff being $15 an hour. It's not like McDonald's is like, oh shit, we've got to make an ATM for us in a week. They had that shit ready to go. It's hard to roll that out.
Or their development team was like, we need to start charging $20 for the Big Mac so that we can pay people more. Like,
oh yeah, well
no, that's not it.
That's the other part of it. But I'm saying like, once that PR shit went under fire, they're like, oh well, fuck it. We already have this ready to go. We wanted to do this. You just sped it up by 5 years.
Yeah, it's
so
it's crazy.
Anything to plug? CrownGinger.com. Crown-Ginger.
Well, yeah, that's the blog, but it's good. I do a bunch of different stuff on there, and then I'll promote mainly different things within the area. Not so much. I think
you got to come back in every month or so, every couple months, something like that.
We'll start doing, because we had 3 little side things just from this one So we'll have to schedule the next
Yeah, I
one
know.
to be earlier.
I get on Tangent Highway, and this could have gone 4 hours for sure.
Right.
But I try to
We
keep it
condensed
to
it.
about an hour. Well, I gotta cram some work the rest of the day.
Yeah, he's important. He's got things to do with his tiny coffee.
You could call it tiny. I call it girthy.
I have a grande. You have a pequeño.
I have a girthy. What's girthy in Spanish?
Oh, I don't even want to know. Why would you want to know the answer
Because
to that?
that's my New Year's resolution is to use
to
girthy
be
more.
girthy.
No, use the word girthy more.
I'll get you a shirt.
So I say, please, it'd be awesome. So like, if I
Hashtag
say
girthy.
like, hey, your revenues, your
Extra girthy
your revenue,
this quarter?
yeah, your revenue from the online ads we've been doing is looking really girthy.
Look,
And then they're like,
our
what?
efficiency has tripled your girth.
And I was like, oh, it's doing really well. You got a lot,
I'll break
a lot.
it down for you.
Yeah. So that's my game within the game. You gotta have some fun when you're doing the boring stuff. So all right.